mentions in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O believers, it is your duty to protect yourself, yourselves and your families from the fire. Nara waquduha an-nas wal hijara. The fire whose fuel will be the stones and nas, and people and the stones and the people, they will be fuel for the fire. And alayha malaikatun ghilazun shidad. And upon this fire there is malaika, there are angels who are ghilaz, who are harsh and strong as well. And la ya'asuna Allah ma amarahum. And they will never disobey Almighty Allah in anything Allah Ta'ala orders them to do. And they do whatever He orders. So meaning that whatever the orders Almighty Allah gave, they will fulfill that. So they are not going to be disobedient. So it's very important that you consider staying away from that fire which is promised for the ones who do disobey Almighty Allah in this life. So Allah Ta'ala has ordered us not only to save ourselves, but also to save the families. Meaning that the parents of current generation, they have a duty placed upon them, a great responsibility upon their shoulders to raise children which are sincere and which are true inheritors of Islam. So they have to make sure that they raise such children who will be able to pass the Islam on to next generation. So without they taking without they making the effort, and without they taking this responsibility of passing the Islam on to their generation, they will not be able to pass this on to the next generation. So it's important that you take that responsibility. That's why every single one of us has that duty of passing the knowledge on. And Al-Qadriyyah is doing exactly the same for itself. It's providing that platform, it's providing those opportunities. And there are many more organizations, not just Al-Qadriyyah. I should accept that there are many other organizations, authentic Ahlul Sunnah organizations, which are trying to pass this knowledge on. And we should all contribute and cooperate with them as well. Wherever you go, wherever you can send your children to authentic organizations, just to make sure that they learn Islamic knowledge, which is based upon the creeds of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'at, then that needs to be done actually, because that will only ensure that they will get what is necessary for them to protect their iman, and not only their iman, but also they will be able to pass it on to the next generation. That's why Al Islam has mentioned that kullukum ra'in, kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ul an ra'iyatihi. That every single one of you is a guardian, ra'i, guardian. And every single one of you is going to be questioned and held accountable for their word, whatever they were made guardian for. So Allah Ta'ala mentioned that every single one of you, including the people who, the parents will be guardians for the children, the mothers will be guardian for their own children, and the wife will be guardian for the husband's house. So every single one will have a duty of guardianship. Basically, they will be held accountable on the day of judgment for whether they fulfill that duty or not. यानी हर एक से उसका सवाल होगा. अल्लाह सरकार फरमाते हैं कि तुम में से हर एक जो है वो एक कि राई है. राई का लफ्ज़ होता है रियाया पे जिसको हुक्मरान मिलाया जाए. Somebody who is given control over some people, that is a ra'i. And riaya is the people, the subjects of his rule. Those people are the riaya. That all those subjects that were given under your rule, you will be questioned about them. Meaning that the people, the parents, they had control over their children. So while they in this dunya, they have the responsibility of raising them in the light of Islam and making sure that they get that education which is necessary for them to practice Islam. Therefore, they must make sure wherever they see the opportunity which is provided them in the light of the teaching of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'at, they must avail that. They must make sure that they provide the children the education. So there are certain things that we need to consider. That's why Islam basically in the form of teachings of Al-Qadriyyah, and also in the form of revelation of the Quran, has given us a certain guidance. If we follow that, then definitely we can raise children who will be self-sufficient in protecting their iman and also the iman of the future generation, inshallah ta'ala. So Hadith Pak says that talabul ilm, seeking the knowledge, was the very first thing. Seeking the knowledge is faridah upon every single Muslim and Muslimah. Yani, you have to seek the knowledge which will bring you closer to Almighty Allah, knowledge which will give you the information and awareness of your Creator. And that knowledge will give you awareness of the ahkam that your Creator basically stipulated upon you. That knowledge is, seeking that knowledge is fard upon yourself and every single believer and believing woman. So they have to seek that knowledge. And so therefore, while this is a believer, this is a faridah upon every believer, at the same time, it is a faridah upon the parents to make sure that right from the beginning, the children get that knowledge. So you need to, right from the early age, they have to make sure that they pass on this knowledge. So very first thing that they have to have is having a bond with the children. They have to provide the children that environment within the house and outside the house that has to be basically that has to have potential to raise them according to the principles of Islam. That has to have the right influence upon them. So therefore, the very first thing that the parents should have is they should have a bond with the children first. When they will have that, then they will ensure that the children, they are attached to them. And they will naturally be inclined to listen to what the parents have to say. So I'm talking specific in the context of this country now, where you have very limited control over your kids. So it's important that right from the early age, you establish that bond with the kids. And when you will do that, only then you will be able to bring them closer to yourself. And we see that from the story of Luqman alayhi salam. You read the story of Luqman alayhi salam in Surah, in 21st chapter, or 21st part of the Quran, Surah Luqman, in which he is talking to his own son now. The way the conversation happens between Hazrat Luqman and his son, that also highlights a great aspect of the parenting methodology. How should we go about this? So he mentioned, Ya Bunayya, oh my son. Bunayya is the tasgheer of son, Ya Bunayya. So he's addressing him in a most affectionate manner. So he's basically attaching him in such a way, he's attaching him to himself in such a way that he will come closer to him. Meaning that in his addressing to his son, there is an element of kindness. So it starts with a kindness. So you have to be kind upon your kids and your children. Only then this will make it possible for you to bring them closer. And that is also reflected from a hadith Mubarak of Al-Qadriyyah, where he mentions Hazrat Aqra bin Habis, he saw Al-Qadriyyah kissing his grandson. He said that I have 10 children and I never kissed any of them. Al-Qadriyyah said that the one who has no compassion, then he will not be treated mercifully. But la yarham, la yarham. Someone who does not have mercy on others, he will not be treated with mercy. So therefore, one needs to, the very first, you can say, principle of raising self-sufficient, self-reliant children is having a strong bond with them. And that starts with basically having mercy upon them and being very kind to them, and being friendly with them right from the beginning. Then you will have that kind of relationship with them. Then they will naturally be close to you, they will be attached to you. When that will happen, that means they will come close, they will listen to whatever you say, they will try to follow you, and whatever you do, they will try to imitate them in their life. And that is what we learn from Al-Qadriyyah as well. Hazrat Anas bin Malik says, who was the servant of Al-Qadriyyah for 20 odd years. And he, for about 10 odd years, he served Al-Qadriyyah in Medina Sharif. And he says that I served Al-Qadriyyah for 10 years, and never during this lifetime Al-Qadriyyah ever said uff to me. Uff is an Arabic term which reflects basically an expression of anger, expression of resentment, dislike. Somebody dislikes something and say uff. is when he is unhappy, he will reflect that, he will express that with a word of. It's mentioned in the Quran as well, that whenever the parents, they reach certain age, never say off to them, never express anger or dislike to them. So meaning that never express any anger. And these three kids sitting there, they're testing my patience as well, whether I say off or not. Right? They're there to show you practically how to treat kids nicely. Okay? So I will live by my words and not say anything. Okay? I won't say off. So never say off to your kids whenever they are behaving badly, just as these three kids are now. This example. So Hazrat Anas bin Malik said, for 10 odd years, I never heard any sign of dislike or anger from Al-Qadriyyah. Never saw any sign of dislike from Al-Qadriyyah. Subhanallah. And he never said to me, why would you do so? Why did you do this? He never, and whenever I refrained from doing something that he ordered me to do, I didn't do so. Never did he say that, why would you not do that? Meaning he never expressed anger upon me. And subhanAllah, this was the great akhlaq of Al-Qadriyyah, which also teaches us that this is how we need to raise our kids. If we want them to grow up and have great attitude, great akhlaq and great character, and that is something that we need to feed into them right from the early age. And second thing is the way you communicate with the kids, that's also important, and the way you communicate and the frequency of that. The frequency of your communication, the time you spend with the kids is important. And nowadays I see in families, and I can see that because the life is extremely busy nowadays, we don't get time for the kids. We think that because we have provided them with all the facilities, we have given them the PS4 and PS5, and we have given them all the worldly things, they will be very happy and they will be absolutely obedient kids. But I think that's not necessary. That's not enough, I should say. That's not enough and not necessary as well. Because the more important thing is the time that you spend with them. If that's a quality time, you give them time and you convince them that you care for them and you are there for them whenever they need you, and they will be more attached to you. But if you sit with them, you listen to whatever they have to say, you share your thoughts with them and you ask them to share their thoughts back, and you discuss matters with you, whatever happened in the school, you discuss that with them, and you go through everything that they learn in the school, even though they might be learning wrong, which is happening nowadays. But if you can sit down and you can take them into confidence and you discuss that with them and you show them the right path, then I'm sure whatever the filth that is being fed into their minds outside, that will have no effect on them, because they know that they are covered from the home. And this is how it's going to be. It can be tackled. So the time that you spend with your kids, that's more important. Communication with your children, that's more important. And the frequency of that, it has to happen regularly. So every week at least, you should sit with your kids. If you don't have time to do so every day, but at least every week you should sit down and make sure that you ask your children where they stand and what are they up to, and how they will basically tackle the worldly challenges. Third thing is that you have to provide them with good education and training. Please read the sheet. The thing is providing education and training and spending on that as well. In this country, spending on the education is the duty of the government. That's worldly education. But as parents, the duty of the parents is to spend on their Islamic education. Nobody's going to do that for you. You have to take a step and you have to spend on the education. And this is your worldly responsibility. So, and Hadith Pak says that everything that you spend on your family is sadaqah, and the best sadaqah that you do is the one that you spend on your family. So that's also a means of great charity. So you spend on your family's education, your children's education, and that means that's the best outcome, that's the best thing that you're doing with your money. So that will give you greatest reward in the court of Almighty. And also that's a sadaqah jariyah, means that while you're spending every single penny that you spend on the education of your kids, when they will grow up and act upon that, the reward will keep multiplying. And when they will teach their own children next, that reward will keep coming back to you. This will keep continuing this way. Even after they depart from this dunya, you will keep getting the reward, subhanallah ta'ala. So this is how spending on the education and training is important, and also part of that is inculcating the iman. So when you're doing all of these activities, the aim should be to establish the iman in the kids. You should have such an environment. An important part of that is having that environment within your house. When you will have that in your house, when you will inculcate such iman and you will give value to iman in your houses, when you will practice that for yourself first, and they will see you as a role model for that, then only you will make it possible for them to basically act upon the Islamic path, and also then only it will be possible for them to have iman in them. And that's why we see that many times Aqa salam would sit with the kids, and there are many ahadith. In Nawawi Sharif, for example, there are ahadith in where Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, who says, I was a child, I was sitting behind Aqa salam, and sometime Aqa would question me about things which will relate to my iman. Now, I'm not going to go into detail of that, but inshallah ta'ala, at some point, our brothers who have learned this from me, they will discuss that with you, inshallah ta'ala. Brother Osama, Maulana Muhammad Ali sahab, inshallah, and others, inshallah, one day, how Maulana bin Yameen sahab sitting at the back, they will do so as well, and Mushtaq as well. But this is something that we can learn from the Shamail of Aqa Islam, from the Ahadith of Aqa, that they would sit down with the kids and they would question about their beliefs, and they would question about basically having the concept of the presence of Almighty in the mind. That's why the Hadith Pak says that when Aqa sat with Ibn Abbas on the right, and he said, "O Ghulam, ihfazillah yahfazka." Wherever you are, keep Allah in your mind. So this is something, this highlights that Aqa used to tell them to keep Almighty in their mind all the time. So whenever they would get a chance to sit with the kids, they would remind them of the presence of Almighty Allah. Because once you have established the oneness of Almighty in your mind, and the presence of Almighty in your mind, then that is something that will protect you from every single basically distraction, every single evil of this dunya and the akhirah. And this is something that's being targeted for you in the schools nowadays. So they are targeting this aspect of the character and the building, basically the character building, because they are targeting the aqidah of the presence of Almighty Allah, and they're spending billions on that. So they are making effort to take the aqidah of tawheed away from their hearts, but at the same time, it's duty of the parents to make effort. They should sit with the kids and they should discuss that with them, whether they have the strength of belief in the presence of Almighty Allah or not. So they should keep talking about the events that took place in the history. They talk about the seerat of awliya kiram, and talk about the seerat of Aqa as the brother mentioned, mashallah. Study the seerat of Aqa, Shamail of Aqa and the ahadith of Aqa, and sit in the company of the ulama kiram, like this gathering we arrange for yourself, the gathering of ilm, the gathering of nur, the dhikr, the reminders. This gathering is something that will inculcate iman in them, and that is what will make it possible for the iman to be protected. So dhikr, reminder. Dhikr means reminding yourself. The more you remind yourself of something, that is something that keeps your iman intact and keeps you on the right path. So it's important that you keep reminding, you keep regularly have such gatherings inside the house and outside the house as well. You should bring your kids to such gatherings, and within your houses you should have such sittings with them, which will keep them attached to the roots, the origin, where they came from. They will keep remembering the oneness of Almighty Allah, and they will keep remembering the personality of Aqa Islam, the character of Aqa Islam, the sunnah of Aqa Islam, and only that is only how they will finally remain on the right path. And so this is part of the character building, basically, which is another major aspect. So once you build the character according to the principles of Islam, only then you make it possible for them to follow the path of Islam, that follow the footsteps of Aqa Islam. So create that positive environment within your houses. You have to make effort, and this cannot be done by simply thinking about it or aiming for that to happen. and hoping for that. I'm sure every parent, especially the ones who are sitting here, and the ones who will be listening to me, every parent has that desire for their house to be according to the principles of Islam, whether we are acting upon that or not, whether we ourselves have made the effort to act upon Islam first or not. I mean, I'm sure many of the parents who are sitting here, they would wish, and they practically, mashallah, take steps in building that environment in the house. And that is something that is required. So something which will make sure that the kids will remain steadfast on the path of Islam is that you have to make sure that that natural environment in the house is according to Sharia. And for that you have to make sure that every single thing that you do inside the house has to be according to the principles of Islam. And you have to sit down and discuss with each other regarding the teachings of Islam. And also, when you say you tell your kids to act upon the Shariat, and when you basically expect from them to act upon the Shariat, then you should expect from yourself to act upon the Shariat. You're not doing that yourself. Something which is most disliked by Almighty Allah, maqta, and most hateful thing is that you say something but you don't act upon that yourself. So it's important that you keep telling your kids to be on the right path, but you be on the right path yourself. So it's very important for you to act upon the Shariat yourself, establish 5 daily prayers in your houses, and make sure that the food that you're feeding your kids and the money that you bring in your house is also clean, and that's how you will make sure that the environment, all of that remains right. And so, one last thing I should mention before I conclude this short speech. I could mention many more things in detail, but I will gather this short, inshallah ta'ala. One last thing is that when you help your kids have that environment outside the house, inside the house, yes, you have to make sure that you create such an environment. But when they're outside with their friends, that is when that's the most destructive time that they experience. Because Hadith Pak says that Al-Mar'u ala dini khalilihi, that a man is on the religion of his most close friend, somebody who he confides in, somebody who he basically has his trust upon. So he takes he relies on him, and he accepts all his ways and his habits naturally. So this is something that we need to focus on. So فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ. So one of you must look at who he is befriending with. So parents have a duty of making sure that they also keep an eye on who the child is sitting with while he's outside the house, or even inside the house nowadays. They have to keep an eye on who they are interacting with on the social media. Because social media is a platform where you no longer need to go outside your house. You can now stay inside your room, and you can still be in touch with the elements from the society who can have a negative impact on yourself. So it's important for the parents to make sure that they keep an eye on that. So these are few things that we can try, and we can help create the environment within the house that will make sure that we raise the kids which are according to principles of Islam. But one last thing I should mention before I conclude the speech is that what exactly are we trying to inculcate in them? When we say that yes, we are raising kids on the principles of Islam, what exactly are we trying to do? Hadith Pak says, to sum up everything, every effort that we make to bring up the kids in the light of Islam, the Hadith Pak sums up everything and says that that in your kids you should inculcate 3 things and raise your kids on 3 principles. And if you can give any gift to your kids, then give them 3 things. One of that is that Hubbu Nabiyikum, first, love of the Prophet ﷺ, wa Hubbu Ahli Baytihi, and love of the family of Al-Qadriyyah, wa Tilawat al-Quran. 3 things, if you can give to your kids, then you have certainly made their life. Then they can certainly be protected from the evils of this dunya. One is the love of Al-Qadriyyah. When they will have the love of the Prophet then most certainly they will adopt the path of, they will adopt the sunnah in their life. They will adopt the teachings in their life. And they will give preference to whatever they said in their life. And then the love of the Ahlul Bayt also means that they will be attached to them. And Ahlul Bayt also mean the people who are knowledgeable, and people from Ahlul Bayt who are knowledgeable and who have the right aqidah, who have knowledge as well, and who practice Islam themselves. When they will be attached to them, then that will also ensure protection of the iman and the amal as well. And tilawat al-Quran means they will be connected to Quran. They will be learnt about Quran, they will read Quran, they will implement Quran in their life, and then that will make sure that they remain on the right path. Will give us the ability. The topic is very vast. Obviously, time is short, but inshallah ta'ala we'll touch upon this in the future gatherings. Will give us the ability to raise kids according to the teaching of Islam, and also according to the Sunnah of Islam. And may Allah give us, may Allah make our kids the coolness of our eyes, inshallah ta'ala. Wa akhir da'waya. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.